Connecting. Good morning, Coldwell Banker George Realty agents. This is the Friday training for the benefit of Coldwell Banker George Realty agents. And we do not offer legal advice. We do not offer CPA advice. We are offering only a method of improving our knowledge so we can service our clients better, so we can give first-class service. Remember, when you do that, you will get more customers recommending you, and word of mouth is the best way to get customers. You know, when somebody give you a referral from a friend that you did a good job, from a client that you did a good job, that is probably the best way. Just to let you know, this class is gonna be cut early. Unfortunately, I already was committed to a luncheon. Just to let you know, today is the Coldwell Banker George Realty Awards Luncheon. We did not have one year 2020 because of the pandemic. We usually have our award during the month of June for previous years. So this today we are doing a I believe it's a fancy lunch with awards and goodie bags to the people that qualify for Coldwell Banker International Awards. And they are some, you know, tough to get them. There'll be close to about 40 people for company-wide, and they will be receiving plaques and all that, the certificates and things of that nature. So you know, I'm gonna share my screen. Maybe I have an email with Peter Cam, our broker, sent that today. But let me share the screen. I believe that he sent an email, and on the email, he gave us the awards criteria. So I hope that you can see it, right? So the beginning is International Sterling Awards. So let me see if I can make it bigger. No, I can't. So here's the deal. International award, it talks about commission, adjusted gross commission income of $125,000. So this is the commission before the split. So if you sell and we collect 125 before we split your percentage, your 75%, your 70% and the company. So this will be before the split. If you collect 125 in gross commission from escrow, you get the International Sterling Society agent, right? If you do 18 transactions, these 18 transactions are sales, escrow. So if you list the property and you sell the property, that counts as 2. The next one is you go to International Diamond Society. You do $175,000 of gross commission, or you close 25 deals, 25 escrows. The next one up is the International President Circle. It's $250,000 of gross commission, or close 35 escrows, or 35 transactions. You can become a member of the International President's Elite if you do $400,000, or you close 55 escrows in the year 2021. International President Premier, you do $650,000 worth of commission, and you close 80 transactions, and you become International Society of Excellence if you do $1 million and you do 160 transactions. In my real estate, being the manager at Coldwell Banker George Realty Alhambra, I've only had one guy, very young guy, that got the International Society of Excellence. He also won the 30 under 30. So if you are under 30 years old and you're in the top Coldwell Banker worldwide, they do a big hoopla-doo, but you have to be younger than 30. The top 30 people under 30, they do an award. If you register an official team of 1 to 3 members, they have the same awards, but it's called the team award, okay? And if you have a big team of 4 people, in order to get the International Society, you have to make $2.6 million or close 300 transactions. And then the offices are very interesting. The International Sterling Society is an office that closes $4 million. Diamond Society, if we close 5 million or 500 transactions. International President's Elite Office is 11 millions. If you're a President Premier Office, if you close 19 millions. And of course, Coldwell Banker George Realty receives a company Chairman Circle. So we are a Chairman Circle company by closing 11 million bucks or above. If we are below the 11 millions, we will be President's Award of Honor, which is 5 million or more, between 5.5 million and 11 million. Those are the two company-wide awards worldwide. So these ones are international awards. They go across the board. People in Coldwell Banker in Spain or in Germany or in any of the countries compete with us. All right. So that is for Coldwell Banker Awards. I wish somebody in this class today gets to be an award winner. All you need to do is make $125,000 between January 1 of 2021 and December 31st of 2021. One caveat, the properties have to be residential. We are residential and commercial. So if you do a commercial transaction, it will be on the commercial award. So some people in the company might make $150,000, but the transactions they make was $75,000 in residential and the other 75 was in commercial. You don't get no awards in either side. Okay. So sorry for that. So let me get out of this screen and I am going to go to the screen that I wanted to show you. I'm gonna minimize this screen. I hope everybody can see. I hope everybody can hear me. Welcome to those of you that are joining us now. I am going to go to the first location where I usually go, and I show you that we need to go to www.zipformplus.com. We go there directly, or you can go here through the cbgeorgerealty.com website, and you click on agent, and then when they tell you company requirements, you click there, or transaction requirements, you click on that hot link, and it'll bring you to this page. Everybody at the company will have a username, which is your first name dot your last name. You will be getting a link. Once you get that link, you click on the link, and you will set up your own web password, and then you land on the Coldwell Banker George Realty broker version of the CAR zip form. Okay, so this one will verify that you're a member, of California Association of Realtors. They run the forms, they're the same, but they're two different forms. If you go to car.org and you go to transactions, you will get to zip forms, but the one problem is that you do not have templates. The benefit of using the Coldwell Banker George Realty version and coming directly to ZipForm Plus is that we, the managers, Caesar does this, and he puts together the templates, so that way you would have most of the forms that are going in a transaction. As I mentioned on the email that we sent today, we are doing disclosure. So I'm going to be doing a new transaction. It's going to be a new listing. I am going to be using, different numbers, 6, 7, 8, 9, Banana Street. Let's do it, Buda, Texas. Okay, I love it. Right. Whatever, doesn't matter what it is. I am an agent at Coldwell Banker George Realty. I am at 1611 Garfield. If you are from Puente, you will have your Puente address. If you're from Arcadia, you're going to have Arcadia offer. We always teach residential, which is what we teach. You need to study yourself the bigger transactions, residential income, commercial, condos, things of that nature. You will go from this one. So this one is the basics. We teach the basics. If that listing at 6789 Banana Street would be listed in the MLS, I can click over here and go to MLS Connect. And when I click to MLS Connect, I have to have the MLS number, whatever MLS number could be, WS 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or if the listing is from Arcadia Board of Realtors, you will say AR, whatever, 1, 2, 3. If the listing is from the Citrus Valley, I think it says CV, blah, blah, blah. In some other MLSs, they only have numbers. Then you will go and find it, right? And it says include the photo. When you click and find it, zip form goes to the MLS, finds the property, and it brings all of the pertinent information. It brings the listing agent's name, the listing broker name together with the license. It also brings the address of the property. It brings the listing price, okay? And then you say, use that listing. I don't have a listing. It's not on the MLS, so I cannot do that. Let me just close there. So it is an active transaction. It's up to you how you want to manage your transaction. You can call it a pending transaction. You can call it a prospect. I don't care. I don't like this inactive or fell through. I always like to be active because I'm working on it. That's my definition of active. You can have any definitions that you have, okay? I am the agent, Cesar Aviles, caviles@coldwellbanker.com is my information. I want to select the template. If you don't learn nothing today, this is the kicker. Select templates. And this is what we prepare for you. We prepare, like, for example, vacant land purchase agreement, or mobile home listing, or mobile home purchase, right? Residential short sale listing, residential short sale. Since I am doing a residential listing, I am going to pick up this residential listing. I'm going to click it. And then I am going to be saving that transaction. When I save the transaction, my zip form goes out and gets all the forms that I had from my template, okay? Applying my template CV, right? And it goes and puts all the information right here on documents. Very easy to use zip form. It is just tabs. You know, you go from transactions to tasks to contact. You do not have admin. That's because I'm the manager and I have admin rights. I can do that. The next tabs are summary of the transaction, who is involved in the transaction, the documents that are in the transaction, checklists that you can create. We do not have checklists in here, okay? We don't use zip form for checklists. We have checklists in our SkySlope. You can put notes to the transactions, and you can prepare notes by yourself. You can add notes and then copy some of those notes and use them in your transaction. This will be the electronic signature. Everybody that it's a paying member of CAR gets free electronic signatures provided by a company called Digital Ink, okay? And then a history, it will show you the history of the transaction. When would the transaction created? You know, banana, you know, and it tells you what happened on that transaction. And then marketplace are companies that advertise and they pay big money to CAR, so you guys can use my NHD or Outlook or, you know, Updater. Some of these companies, you know, title companies, they're transaction coordinating companies. I don't use it, but if you want to use MailChimp, sometimes you get discounts. Okay, Constant Contact. Okay, this is a email company. One of the best, expensive, is not free. Cloud CMA, you get it for free if you're a member of CRMLS. So let me go back to the parties on the transaction. I am the listing agent. I am on the seller side because I am going to be giving the disclosures, right? In the law, the seller must provide disclosures to the buyer. We lived in California. California is a consumer protection state. Just like Texas is a gun-carrying state, California, it's a consumer protection state. Even though the buyer and the seller are two equal individuals, in my eyes, in the state of California, the buyer is the poor guy that gets taken advantage by the seller. Sometimes it's the other way around, but in California, the poor buyer The millionaire, the guy that comes with the cash, is the poor guy that needs to be told what to do and what not to do, okay? They treat him like if they do not nothing about the buying. So here, I am gonna go to the seller, and seller is always Sally. She is my favorite seller, last name Seller, right? And I can put her address. The more information I put here for Sally, the better it's gonna be, you know, Sally at realestate.com. Of course, all of the things that I use are make-believes. Phone numbers, I will just apply any phone number, 555-134, you know, whatever. I can put phone numbers for Sally here. I can put her email. The more information I filled in these fields, the more that is gonna auto-populate to my transaction. So I'm gonna put save, and now I have, Sally is my seller and I'm the agent. I can go here and update my information. The more information that I update over here, you know, my license, and my phone numbers, the more information I put over here, the more information that is gonna auto-populate to my transaction. Okay, let me move on with it because we are pressed for time. So documents, already they came in here. If I did not check the template, this is where I will have to go. Did you see on the right-hand corner, top right, it says all forms. If I click here, these are all the California Association of Realtors forms. There are several libraries, you know, all of them. So you can select a library, and then all of the forms, you can name them. But the ones that are in blue are the forms that we created for you, that we added for you. But there is, look at all these forms: amendments, arbitrations agreement, bills of sales, broker, you know, buyers, materials issues. There is a whole bunch of forms, and they keep creating more form, and I hate it, but they keep doing more coronavirus crap. And then declaration regarding real estate, court confirmation, disclosure and consent to represent more than one buyer. There's a whole bunch of forms, right? That if I click on one, it will be added to my transaction. What I did already is notices, okay? So what I did already is we already gave them to you. And the way that I explain them is that this is a restaurant. You already pick, when you pick your template, what kind of food we're gonna have. We're gonna have French food today. And now I walk into the French restaurant and they ask me, would you like to have a salad or soup? And then I'm gonna be picking up some of this information, right? So the first information that I'm gonna go to the listing input, right? I'm not gonna talk about the listing today. I'm just gonna talk about the all of the forms that are there. This one is the input. This is what you have to fill in and put it in turn it into the listing secretary. So we will have information: how many bedrooms, how many baths, how big is the yard, appliances, a description of the property. Then this one is instructions to exclude from the MLS. If the seller does not want the property to be advertised in the MLS, this is the form that we have: seller's instructions to exclude the listing from the MLS. And this one, every form, every CAR form has a name, and every form has a last time that it was revised. Do not use old forms, please, okay? When you use the latest forms, the California Association of Realtors have some sort of legal defense that if anybody challenged the form, they will pay for the attorney to help us in the case. So that's the reason why we use CAR forms, and that's the reason why we need to use the latest form. If you use broker version, you rest assured that you're using the latest version. We go to the listing agreement, and on the listing agreement, the first form that we need to disclose something, right? It's a disclosure, and it's a disclosure regarding my duties to my client, right? I am the seller's agent. The broker company gives to the seller. There is another one exactly the same, but instead of saying seller's brokerage, it says buyer's brokerage firm to the buyer. Exactly the same way. This form, the last time that it was revised was in December of 18, and that's okay. And this is required by civil code. Everything that says civil code, it's the law. If you click it, then this one is for a lease, okay? If you're doing a lease that is 1 year or more, right? So we do 1 year, we will check the box and it will be for a lease for a tenant. And wherever it says seller, that will become a landlord. And wherever it says buyer, it refers to the tenant, okay? At the bottom of the form, it will say seller or tenant, right? Seller or tenant, and you're gonna be using that form. So this one, the law, this civil code, it's written on the back page, on the second page of this one. And the civil code is as confusing as attorneys, okay? So all these attorneys are crazy. They got nothing better to do than to confuse people, okay? That's my opinion. And the civil code and the people in Sacramento, they got nothing better to do than to make life miserable for the rest of the citizens, okay? So if you have nothing to do tonight, Saturday or Sunday, okay? They're predicting that it's gonna be overcast on Sunday, so you can get a nice cup of tea and start reading Civil Code Section 2079, right? All of it. The confirmation of agency, when you really tell Mr. Buyer, I am the buyer's agent, and Mr. Seller, I am the seller's agent, is gonna come at a later time. And make sure that you do it exactly this way. Otherwise, your contract is not valid, meaning you do not earn your money. And this is the way the people from Sacramento, they want, the law says, I am the seller's agent, and my license is there, and I am the seller's company, I'm sorry, and I'm a seller's agent, and here's my license. I am the buyer, who's gonna be representing the buyer's company license, who's gonna be representing the buyer agent, license number. Please complete these the right way on the purchase agreement, nothing to fill in on this page, okay? So this will be the disclosure. And the disclosure says the following: as a seller's agent under a listing agreement with the seller, acts as the agent for the seller only. A seller's agent or a sub-agent of that agent has the following obligations. And it says affirmative, meaning you don't stay behind. You affirm, then I say, I am the seller's agent. I am going to diligently, I owe a fiduciary duty, utmost care, integrity, honesty. It is beyond saying it that you have to be dealing with people honestly, but you also owe loyalty in dealing with the seller. To the buyer, you owe also duties. Even though you're the listing agent, you need to exercise reasonable skills in performance of your agent's duties. That means you need to know. Reasonable skills is real estate agent skills. Doesn't mean that you're gonna be a lawyer, doesn't mean that you're gonna be an engineer, home inspector, plumber, painter, nothing. You are a reasonable real estate agent. You only know so much. You also have a duty to be honest and fair dealing and in good faith. So when you do, good faith is that you're not gonna be hiding information, or you're not gonna be doing certain things to trick somebody. Many times there are real estate agents out there that are playing the cat and the mouse all throughout the transactions. Don't be that. Don't be a stupid agent. Be an honest agent, and you're going to do more transactions. One half listing or another half buyer, it's better than just listing and selling the same transaction and double ending and then trying to make more money. And usually when you do double ending, they cut you anyhow. So you end up making less money, and it's a very stressful situation because you're in the middle. You also have the duty to disclose, a duty to disclose all the facts. All the facts. You have to fact check your transaction, right? known to the agent materially affecting the value or desirability of this property that are not known to or within the diligent attention and observation of the parties. The state of California think that the buyer is an idiot, so they cannot see. So you need to show them the property, right? And say, oh, there is a little, broken window over there. Take a look at it. Oh, the roof is old or whatever. You need to tell the buyer that. The carpet, it's old. I know they already seen it. It's a crappy house, but you as an agent need to tell them, Mr. Buyer, you're an idiot. The state of California think that you're an idiot, and I need to let you know that the door doesn't open, okay? Whatever. You need to make it as a disclosure, right, to those people. As the buyer's agent, right, with the buyer consent, you are going to be representing the buyer, and you owe the same duties. Look at it, they repeat it. Diligent exercise of reasonable skills, and duty of honest and fair dealing in good faith, and a duty to disclose, right? So you have to behave well, all right? That's what you need to do when this is what this form says. And also says that in the event that you represent both, you are gonna be a seller's agent and a buyer's agent, right? And then these ones are their own responsibilities. Mr. Seller and Mr. Buyer, these are your responsibilities. You are not an idiot. You are an adult. You're over 21. You know what to do. If you drink alcohol, you might get drunk, right? So they tell them, if you legal advice, consult your property professional, right? If you're a buyer, you have the duty to exercise your care to protect yourself, right? Including the facts that they're telling you. So you're not an idiot. They're telling them you're not an idiot, but we're treating you like an idiot, okay? At least that's my opinion. So that is one of the most important. Before you do real estate business, you need to have the buyer sign this form all the time, and you give them a copy, right? Keep your questions. I cannot see the chat room, so you can be putting questions in the chat. I'll review them right after, and then we can unmute ourselves and do that. I go to the listing, and on the listing, I'm going to the second disclosure that comes attached to it. By the way, all of these documents are to be signed by the seller and turning to the company before we can put your property into the multiple listing service, okay? It is good, and it's a good advice that you complete all the forms. Since it's the choice, everybody wants to have fair housing. From being a realtor, since I became a realtor, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, we were always colorblind, right? That's part of it. We do not discriminate unless the money is green. That's it. But now they want to make a new law and put it in writing and have people sign it. So we have to have one more paper, and it says fair housing and discriminatory advisory, right? So equal access to housing for everybody, right? Everybody, all housing in California is available to everybody. Discrimination, as noted below, is prohibited by law. We already knew that, but they're gonna put it in writing again. Resources are available for those who have experience on equal treatment under the law. So if you feel that you have been discriminated against and one of these rules apply, of course, there's a whole bunch of attorneys, ambulance chasers that are gonna sue the heck out of you. So you do not discriminate, okay? And sometimes we don't know, we make a little joke about it, and we can say, the people on this side of Whittier Boulevard, they eat tacos, and that verbiage, when you say it, it is discriminatory because you're trying to bring somebody just to East LA just because they happen to have a Gonzalez last name. And then you say, well, from this street to this street, everybody here go to Chinese food, right? And so you're trying to steer people to a Chinese neighborhood. That is not, there's no such thing as a Chinese neighborhood. There's no such thing as a Latin neighborhood. That is a no-no for us to speak, right? But if the television, if the news, they want to do something like that, I guess the law does not apply to them, but that's okay. Federal law, okay? California law, Okay, there is a whole bunch of civil right law. Okay, there's civil codes. There U.S. Constitution law, Title III of the Americans with Disability Act, so covers, right? There is other, Section 5 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, the Ralph Civil Rights Act. I mean, I'm pretty sure that they're doing more laws about discriminating against everything. And there is so many protected clauses in the state of California, right? Race, color, ancestry, national origin, religion, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, marital status, familial status, right? Source of income, disability, medical condition, citizenship, primary language, immigration status, military veteran status, age, criminal history, any arbitrary characteristics. So anything, it's if you ask somebody, have you ever been in jail, right? Or you have tattoos from here to there, everywhere, and you have a gun over here and a knife on your chest, you cannot ask, even if they have served, 20 years in San Quentin in the penitentiary, you don't say anything, you don't look at anything, right? If they have money, if they cash, they can buy. If they qualify for a loan, they can buy anywhere in the state, from Eureka to the Mexican border, from the beach, from Redondo Beach all the way to Lake Tahoe. Okay, they can buy in California. If you violate these regulations, right? Business and Profession Code said that they're gonna take your license away. Okay, so please, please do not discriminate. Also, realtors, we realtors put on a whole bunch of rules against us ourselves. So we have something called the Code of Ethics, right? Article 10 prohibits discrimination. So if you discriminate, you're gonna be in trouble, right? So they also tell the consumer who is required to comply with the law. Any landlord, any seller. So if the landlord discriminate, ouch, I wouldn't work with a landlord that says, I only want this type of people in my apartment, or I only want to sell my house to this kind of people, or people that are coming from this country or that country, or this race or that race. Okay, be careful on your conversations. By the way, there are people out there that are, they pay them, they call them, they fish, and they might call the office and say, hi, I would like to buy a house. And they're very well qualified. They got their paperwork. And then you say, oh, no, no, don't go to this neighborhood. Go to this neighborhood because there is purple people here, or silver people over here. They might be just taking notes. And then all of a sudden, you get somebody from the FBI and they put a car and they put your handcuff. Okay, I don't want that to happen. Okay, and so never asking those questions on the applications, right? So read the form, very simple, failing to access financial based portion of the income responsible by a tenant who receives government subsidies, such as basing it otherwise neutral rent to income ratio. So whenever somebody is applying, the bank uses the FICO score. If you are taking a tenant and the tenant receives food stamps and they receive I do not know, whatever it's called, welfare money, you cannot discriminate against those people, or the people are in Social Security or receiving disability income. You cannot say, I'm sorry, I'm only looking for people that have a job. Please don't do that, right? So those are the things that you should do. There are examples, positive practice, right? Real estate licensees working with buyers or tenants should apply the same objective property selections criteria, such as location, neighborhood, property features, and price, other consideration to all prospects, right? So if the people can afford, $3 million, right? You say, oh, you $3 million, you can buy a house in Arcadia. $3 million buys you a house in San Marino. 3 million buys you a house in Hollywood or whatever, right? But if the person only has $400,000, you cannot take him to San Marino. Just based on the money, $400,000 buy you a beautiful 5-bedroom house in Beaumont, California, in Palm Desert, California. You can buy a $400,000 home in Linwood, California, right? So you can say that if you have $400,000, these are a couple of the cities around here. I can take you to La Puente. I can take you to Azusa. I can take you, if you want to be in the mountains, you can buy Azusa, but you cannot buy Bradbury because Bradbury is in the millions of dollars. So base it on money only, qualification only. Do not discriminate, right? Because they can call the FBI on you. You don't want the FBI. See, right now, they give him the FBI phone number, okay? They can go and accuse you, right? Of discriminating. So do not discriminate. So that is the Fair Housing and Discriminatory Advisor and Disclosure. All this law, Civil Code, United States USC Code, the United States Code 12181 to 12189 talks about the Americans with Disability, right? So that is the form. If you have any questions about this, we can put them on the chat and I'll talk about it. And then I will review the next form. The next form that is together with the purchase is the possible representation of more than one buyer or seller. Very confusing because the real estate broker, a real estate broker is the broker, right? We are a corporation, right? We are not a partnership. We are not a sole proprietorship. So we are a corporation, and there's 350, almost 400 agents that work for Coldwell Banker George Realty, on which the agent that they talking about here is Coldwell Banker, right? So that agent, Coldwell Banker, is representing hundreds of people by having hundreds of agents. So we tell people, we work for a big firm. We cannot exclusively represent you. Just the company will represent you. And they could be somebody, that is working with, Val can be working with the buyer that is looking for a 3-bedroom, 1-bath in Arcadia. And I am working for a buyer that is looking for a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. And let's say that I work harder and I find a house and Val finds the same house and my buyer gets it. Val buyer can say, hey, you did not represent me well. You should have gotten that house for me. You are my agent. I'm going to sue you for not doing your duty. This paper, we have a signature. We're going to say, hello, we told you so, that there were more than one buyer working on that transaction. Or if it is a listing, Val has a listing in Alhambra, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and I have a listing in Alhambra, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and I do an open house and I sell it first. He's going to say, hey, how come, Val, I hired you to sell my 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and you guys did not sell my house. You sold somebody else's house. Well, we told you that we were working with several sellers in this transaction. So this is what the form is all about. There are multiple buyers, there are multiple sellers, and therefore, if we happen to work on one buyer and one seller and we represent both, we will become a dual agency. And so this paper gives us that permission. So they are giving us that consent. I give you permission to become a dual agent, right? That's what that means, right? They're consenting, giving us permission to be dual agents. Also, we let them know that the offers are not necessarily confidential. So for example, we can tell somebody, hey, I'm getting an offer for X amount of dollars. It is not my way of doing business that I will tell somebody, hey, I already got an offer for 350. If you make one for 360, you get the house. I don't do that. That's not my practice. But this paper clear you, if you wanted to be that kind of an agent that you tell everything to everybody, it's up to you. It's not illegal, but it's not the way that I do business. So you make that decision whether you want to disclose an offer that you have and you want to play an offer against another offer. Okay, that's just up to you. By the way, all of these documentations that I'm talking about, they need to be signed by the seller. I love to have them sign at the time of the listing. All of the disclosures should be signed at the time of the listing. Get them over with. If you think that you're taking too long and you just want to go there and get an authorization to sell, and we're going to sell your house for $900,000, sign here. I will come back tomorrow or the next day or next Saturday, and we will go and complete all the disclosures, or I am going to mail you the disclosures. I'm going to email them to you tonight. Can you please work on the weekend and get them all filled out, sign all the disclosures, and send back to me within the first 3 days of taking the listing, okay? Please. There are certain minimum documentation that we need to turn in the listing to the MLS. Like, for example, this one is one of them. If you don't give me the agency, if you don't give me the fair housing, if you don't give me this possible representation, we're not putting your listing in the MLS. So those are the, wire fraud. You get the seller to sign. When they decide to list with you, it's the time that I call honeymoon. When they decide to buy a house and they say, yeah, let's make an offer. We like it. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. We love it. We love it. It's very close to my mom. It's very close to my brother. It's very close to this high school. They're very happy. At that moment, they sign everything. So, because they're happy. After, when they go home and they talk to the stupid brother-in-law that gives them all kinds of advice just because he's jealous, he gives them advice. Oh, you should have not bought in Arcadia. You should have bought in San Marino. The houses are going higher here. Whenever you do that, the grandma says, I'm not giving you the money. You've been a bad grandson, then that's when they start changing, and then they don't sign nothing for you. At the beginning, it's honeymoon. They sign all the papers. So this one is called a wire fraud and an electronic funds transfer advisory, right? So we're telling them, you happen to live in California, you happen to live in the county where fraud happens. Guys, don't be so nonchalant about it. Look what happened to the pipeline, right? Some hackers, they went into their computer, they electronically stopped the flow of gasoline in the northeast of the United States. And if they can do that there, they can do that on your little transaction with your little escrow, with your little buyer, okay? We got people that are, thieves, pirates all over the world, just like it used to be in the 1700s, right? There were pirates of the Caribbean. They were running for rum and gold and ladies, and they were stealing everything from the islands. The same thing happened in the the South Seas, the South China Seas. A lot of pirates, running all kinds of illegal opium from, Vietnam, from the islands and whatever out there, So there is a lot of gangsters in the world. So we need to tell the poor buyer that is buying in California, watch out. Don't send money by wire unless you double check with the escrow, the title company, right? So that's what we're telling them. What happened is that we need to have that in writing, just in case something happened to them. If the title company steals their money, we're going to say, I told you so. I'm sorry, you sent the money and I told you to verify with the escrow officer if you were sending that money. That's what our attorney is going to tell you to say when you are in court. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth? Yes. And then they're going to tell you, did you sign this paper? Yes. And that's all they're going to ask you. They're not going to ask you to tell the story. Everything in writing, and the attorney is going to ask you a couple of questions. And then they're going to say, did you tell the buyer not to wire? No, I gave him a form called wire fraud. So then they're going to say, well, the buyer was dumb. not the agent. We're not responsible for your money. That's what all these papers are all about. They're about protecting us legally and financially. So please make sure that you do this paperwork correctly so you protect yourself legally and financially, and also you protect your license. The next document is the residential listing agreement. I'm not going to talk about the residential listing agreement because today's class is about disclosures, all the disclosures that go into this transaction. So let me just run over the listing. It's 5 pages. A listing is the authorization that the seller gives us permission between this day and this day to sell a property, to market the property, to put it on the MLS, to put a sign, to put a lockbox, to do all the marketing, to get as many buyers to take a look at the house so they can give them the best price. That is what a listing agreement is all about, okay? Now we go to give them advisories, right? So we, as the agents, we tell them, you are selling a property in the state of California. It is a very complicated issue. That's the reason why I like to charge you 10% commission, 9%. Okay, just because you're family and friends, I'll do it for 7. Okay, so you tell them what you're gonna be doing. So you're advising them, and you tell them that, Mr. Seller, by law, you need to give a whole bunch of disclosures to the buyer, right? So you must. It's not you should. It says you must. That's how the people in Sacramento want to treat you. You must disclose to the buyer. What it says here? In writing. That's why we have so many forms. You got to disclose them in writing, any and all known facts, all the facts about the property. Okay, this property floods when it rains, or the neighbors at 3 o'clock in the morning, they have a factory, or at 4 o'clock in the morning, they got chickens and they got cuckoo in the morning, which is illegal to have more than 3 animals in a R1 zoning, okay? Whatever happens to be the case, there's a whole bunch of laws that nobody follows, right? There is a 25 mile per hour if you're driving in front of a school. And some of you don't drive 25 miles an hour. I know, I have seen you, okay? So don't give me that. Then you're gonna tell that you have duties by law, right? You have federal duties and you have state duties, and then many local entities, meaning the cities, have supplemental forms that you need to do. They have earthquake areas, right? They have hazard zones that you need to do. So now it says here, they're gonna be third-party companies that can help you with this. That's the reason why we like to hire an NHD company, so that natural hazard disclosure company do some of the job for the seller. Instead of the seller saying, oh my God, there is wild animals in this area. I have bears and I have coyotes and I have rats and I have squirrels and I have birds that go into my attic, or I have bees, bzz, right? And so we get companies to help us do these disclosures, right? So this is the reason, Mr. Seller, that you need to complete a transfer disclosure statement. By law, you have to do it on any property 1 to 4, okay? Natural hazard disclosure, right? Lead. You need to tell somebody if the property is close to a military ordinance. If it is, a military ordinance is where the government stores guns in case of a Russian invasion, in case of a Chinese invasion, in case of a Mexican invasion, in case of a Canadian invasion. There are arms in several places in the United States of America where the Army, the Navy, the Air Force can go and grab a rifle and go defend the United States. Or I guess that's what it was back in the 1914 and 1918 and 1939 when World War I and World War II. Maybe there isn't anymore, but maybe there is, right? So if you are within that area, you need to tell the buyer because they might explode, boom, boom, and somebody can get hurt, right? Death, You need to tell the buyers and the tenants. By the way, some of you are saying, why do I need the ESD form, the exempt seller's disclosure? Because the landlord must tell the tenant if somebody died in the property within 3 years. Hello? Some of you tell me it doesn't. Go check around, right? Civil code. You got to read the civil code. I read it and I fell asleep. Civil Code 1710 provides that you have to disclose, but you do not have to disclose if the people die of AIDS or human T lymphotropic virus type lympho. Blah, blah, blah. They don't say AIDS, but that is the name of the legal virus, right? Okay, that's the AIDS virus, I guess the term, right? Just like the COVID-19 is the legal of the virus that came in from a supposedly a bat in a market. All righty, condominium. You need to tell people condominium. Sometimes it looks like a single family home. It is a gated community, or sometimes there's no gate on the community, but it is a common interest subdivision where they have associations or they have rules, CC&Rs. So make sure that you tell them. So this one is an advisory, Mr. Seller. Please, you tell the buyers, right? Withholding taxes. If you're a foreigner, you might need to be, taxes are going to be withheld from you. Okay. And I don't understand. Very simple. The government tells us, you better ask the seller if they're taxpayers, right? If they're citizens. But it is illegal to discriminate. So how do you do it? Where are you from? And do you have a tax ID number? I don't know. Very difficult to follow the laws because there are too many laws. Okay. Some of the laws are confusing. Anyway, they'll tell you again, prohibition against discrimination. Mr. Seller, do not discriminate, right? Government requirement. There are repairs that the government wants you to do. In the People's Republic of the City of Los Angeles, they want you to put a gas valve in case of an earthquake. They want you to, put tempered glass on all the windows. They want you to have a deadbolt on the door so you can protect yourself because the police will not protect you. You have to have lights outside some of the properties, right? There is all kinds of laws in every city. So you would have to follow up on it, okay? Then you do have marketing considerations. You tell the sellers about, not leaving cash, not leaving jewelry, not leaving guns out in the open, right? And then there are some protection after the sale. So all of these advisories need to be told. My advice is, guys, after we do the class, I know that you're all adults, and sometimes we don't learn from somebody like Cesar talking, and I am listening. I'm falling asleep. I am paying attention to the dog, the cat, whatever is happening in your house, or whatever you are on this Zoom meeting. I understand that there is a lot of distractions. I also understand that you are in your computer, so maybe you are on Facebook, you are in WeChat. We are whatever thinking about what's gonna be the lunch, I'm gonna do all that. So I want you to come into SIPForm Plus, create a make-believe transaction, create all the forms, fill them in, put the dates, and then read them, print them, or if you don't want to print them, read them. I know that reading from the screen can be tiring. You can print them and read them and say, oh, I understand this paragraph. I don't understand this paragraph. What about if my client asks me about, legal requirements, right? So you can read them here. Here's the withholding of taxes, non-discrimination, EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, right? All the green people, all the environmentalists, they want to make sure that you tell people about lead base. So any repairs, renovation, marketing consideration, right? More people are moving to these. They're gonna be moving to a pre-sale inspections, meaning like you probably gonna have to have the seller to do a home inspection, and that way you can make disclosures to the buyer that this doesn't work, this doesn't work, or I found out that my lights were not working, but I already fixed it, and here's the receipt of when we fix it. So it's gonna move to that direction, you know, and it's moving that on the fire hardening, because there are some stuff that the seller has to do on a fire hardening area. If it is a high area of fire or high area or very high potential for fire, the seller of that property may have to do something, get a certificate. So the new law coming up in a couple of weeks, we will have a new form, okay? So this is the form, and if you wanted to know, the name of the form is always at the bottom, right? Seller's advisory. Last time that they revised it was in December of 15, and that's the last time that they did it. So this is the latest form about the seller's advisory, right? The next one is a brand new form, came in at the end of 2019. Well, it's no longer new form. It's been a year and a half. And it says, as of January 1 of 2020, the California Consumer Privacy Act. Civil code. Again, they want to throw at you the civil code. Might as well become a lawyer. No, no, no. You don't become a lawyer. It's some of the stuff in the civil code that applies to our business, right? There are civil codes about not crossing the street. That's not. There are civil code about not parking overnight on the streets. There's a whole bunch of civil codes. I mean, those are the rules of living in the state of California or living in any other state, right? But in the state, there are this one, 1798, talks about the California Consumer Privacy Act. And it's just a paper that we need to give to them. It's an advisory. We need to tell them that we have all of these. We are going to be submitting personal information. We're going to keep it for you. We're not going to give it out. We're not going to sell it, right, to third parties. So this is just a form that needs to be signed by the buyer, needs to be signed by the seller. We do it at the time of listing the property, and this form becomes part of the company folder. You know, everything should be in the company file. Everything that once you take a listing, you will send it to us, okay? Seller sign, and then once you get a buyer, the buyer will sign a similar form, that is called buyer's advisory. When you're writing the offer, there will be a buyer's advisory. You as an agent will give that to the buyer, and then the buyer will sign it and you keep it in your file, right? Private Consumer Privacy Act is what we just reviewed, right? Landlord signs, tenant sign, buyer sign, everybody signs the form and it goes into our files, okay? So let me go back. The next one is a document that we use in the event that you are a corporation, that you're a trust, you're an entity, you're a corporation, you're a limited liability. If you are selling a property that is a probate, the same thing. So you are going to be selling the probate, it's a state. The seller is a state, or the seller is a conservatorship. A conservatorship is when the person is unable to act. Let's say my brother is at the hospital and my brother is almost like a vegetable. And I go to the court and I say, Mr. Judge, I want to run my brother's business. So they give me a conservatorship and I can sell my brother's property so I can give my nephews and nieces the money, okay? Or if it's a guardianship, my brother died and my brother left the property to the kids, but they don't have nobody to manage it. So I go to the court and I get a guardianship to take care of my nephews and nieces until they become 18, and it is the state of my brother and I am the guardian. So I'm gonna do that, and then I am the person. And of course you need to put the case number, the court case number, so people know why do you have that authority, okay? And they have to show it to you as the agent. So this one is a document that will disclosure that you are acting as the seller's representative. There is another one called RCSD, and it has a B, right? You're catching on. You're very smart. This one is a seller's representative. There is one document exactly the same, but instead of talking about the seller, it has a B. A B as in boy, a B as in buyer, exactly the same way. But instead of being acting as the seller's representative, you're acting as the buyer's representative. Great. So make sure that you print a copy of these forms and you read them, you review them. It is very nerve-wracking when you go in front of the buyer or in front of the seller and you do not know what forms are. You gotta be, sharp on the form so that way you can concentrate on how many bedrooms, how many baths, and the yellow house and the greenhouse, and it doesn't have a carpet and it doesn't have a family room, and are you going to be moving in the U-Haul? Are you going to borrow your cousin's truck to move in? All of that conversation and chatter gets you off the knowing the forms. So you need to know the forms like the palm of your hand. This is your tools. This is what you use. Like if you were a painter, you're going to need a brush, you're going to need a roller, you need a tray, you're going to need some of the tools to be able to be a good painter. If you're going to be a cook, of course, you need a stove, you need gas to run the stove, you need matches to light it up. You might need a pot. You might need water to boil the water. You might need to go to the store and buy the noodles. You might need to, all of that stuff that goes along. If you run a retail store, you need to go buy dresses and shoes and hangers and racks, whatever you're going to do in a cash register so you can put all the money you're going to make. Exactly the same thing in real estate. These ones are our forms and we got to use them and we got to know them, okay? There are different forms for different transactions. Not everything is the same transaction. Not everything applies for it. So remember, I said that you, by law, needs to know if the person that is selling the house, it's a taxpayer. Well, the Internal Revenue Code 1445, that's the IRS, right? The Internal Revenue Code, the IRS is asking us that if the people that are selling are not taxpayers, they do not have a social security number. Oops. Can you ask, hey, where are you from? Do you have a social security number? Well, be nice. Say, I have to fill in this form. Can you please tell me? That is the reason why we cannot fill the form now, right? They have to fill it in. They have to give their taxpayer ID to the buyer and tell the buyer, hey, Mr. Buyer, I am not a non-resident alien, right? I am not a non-resident alien. A double negative means I am for purposes of taxation, I am a resident. That's what it says by not non-resident, okay? If this is a corporation, it's a local corporation, right? A limited liability company, and I have my taxes and I file all the taxes, no problem. You need to fill in this form, right? Now, if the people tell you, well, I do not know how to do the IRS 1445, then you need to tell them, please go and consult with your tax advisor, right? Go and talk to your accountant. Well, I don't have a TIN number. I don't know what a TIN number is. Tax identification number. Some people do not have social security number. The government issues a tax ID number. So that's how you would use it, okay? Right? And it says here, important notice. Every time that is important, they put it in very black letters, very big letters and bold. And it says an affidavit should be signed by each individual or entity. That means husband and wife. That means partners, each individual, every transferor to whom or to which it applies. Before you sign it, any questions relating to the legal sufficiency of this form or to whether applies to you, to a particular transaction or about the definition on any of the terms should be referred to an attorney. Look at it. You need to talk to an attorney. You need to talk to a certified public accountant or another tax advisor, a tax preparer, or you can call the IRS, or you can call the California Franchise Tax Board in Sacramento. They have 100 numbers and they can guide you. They can guide your buyers. They are adults over 18. They have to protect themselves. Yes, we advise them, we help them, but they have to be knowledgeable about what they're doing. I mean, it's like, you know, they buy car insurance. Many people don't even know what is covered, right? But they said, if you want to drive a car, you better have one. So they go to an insurance agent sells them something. They better understand their policy, right? They cannot say, oh, I didn't know. You know, when they go to court and they say, I didn't know, they're going to say, well, you sign it right here. I got your signature. That's what our attorney, when they are suing us and we are defending us, are just going to refer to all of the forms. That's the reason why we need all of the forms in our files. Okay. I'm coming to the 11:15 hour. I'm going to quit in about few minutes. I am just going to mention other documents. This one is just a disclosure that you need to disclose. Can you imagine? I mean, the state of California tells them, in California, Mr. Seller, you have to disclose. So they give this to the seller. So it's an advisory to provide information. And they tell them, you're going to be preparing and completing all of this. It's your obligation to do that, right? It's your obligation to do a homeowners association if the property is in a condominium. It is your obligation to complete all the forms. And I know that I get the question, Cesar, my buyer doesn't know. Cesar, my seller doesn't know. Cesar, my seller doesn't speak English. Cesar, my seller doesn't speak French. Well, I'm sorry. In the state of California, they have to hire a translator, an interpreter. And if they do not have one, the court will give you one. No, for free, you're the state. No, you have to pay for it. If you want to have one of your younger kids, which I know is very traumatic for kids to translate for their parents because they don't understand what they're translating. They don't understand the concepts. But I know, okay, that some people use their kids, their minors. What are they saying? What are they saying? I know that. But we are not translators. Unless you are a certified translator and interpreter, then I give it to you. But just knowing another language does not. And if you explain this in another language, you might be in trouble. At least that's what I have to tell you, right? So real estate transfer disclosure, you need to do it. Why? Because it's the law right here. So if the seller say, why do I have to do that? Well, civil code. You know, make sure that next time you vote for the people that don't want government on top of your neck, okay? That's what you got to do. Too many people, too many laws are being created. Oh, there ought to be a law. They should make a law. They should make a law. Everybody that says they should make a law, but nobody follows it, you know? They shouldn't make law. They should erase the laws. Very simple. Respect each other. Treat other as you would like to be treated. And that will be one of the biggest laws in the world, right? Unfortunately, we're not in that type of world. Okay, not a perfect world. That's why I don't run for politics. That's why, otherwise I will be a dictator. Sorry. No, I'm just kidding. They also tell the seller, Mr. Seller, please fill out a seller's property questionnaire, right? So all of these forms need to be filled in. Now, in the event that you are exempt, how is the seller exempt? Well, the seller have to be dead to be exempted. So the seller is now the successor trustee, is a conservatorship. Those people have not lived in a house where they're selling a trust or where they're selling a estate of somebody, then they're exempt from giving this disclosure. But if you live in the house and you are the owner, you have to tell the people whether there is a leak on the toilet, whether there is something broken. Oh, I didn't know. Oh, you live with this? The stove doesn't work. Well, where do you cook? Well, I put some wood in the patio, and that's where I cook. Oh, yeah, for the last 10 years. I didn't know the stove didn't work. Come on, don't give me that you do not know. You know, if you're a property owner in the state of California, you even know how much is the house worth. So whenever they tell you, I don't know, you're the expert. Baloney. They know what they will sell the house for. Tell them, okay, so I know everything, $100,000. They're gonna say, no way, my house is worth $1 million. You see? They tell you right away. And there's a whole bunch of recommendations. So my advice is print all this paperwork and read it once, read it twice. Okay, my English is not my first language, right? So I have a hard time understanding all of this. There you go. I am going to stop sharing my screen. I'm gonna go make sure that everybody is awake still. I do have a couple of, if you go to the chat room, if you go to the chat, I wrote several websites. Or if you don't want to, if you want to copy them right now, www.cbgeorgerealty.com. That's one website that I want you to go visit. The other one is www.mycbdesk.com. That's the Coldwell Banker agents intranet, or behind, the back door. Then you can always go to www.coldwellbanker.com and see how the general public look at us. You can also go to www.car.org. They have a lot of trainings, videos. That's for the California Association of Realtors. You could always go to ZipForm Plus, which is where we were. You could always go to www.nar.realtor. That's the National Association of Realtors. They also have libraries, economy articles. They have newsletters. If you are in the real estate business, make it a habit of reading. I mean, 1 hour a week of reading real estate stuff. Just like a doctor, every day he reads the American Medical Journal just to see if they discover the cure to AIDS, if they discover the cure to cancer, if there is no more masks to be used. People are reading the CDC. The doctors read the CDC every day and see what are the recommendations. Is unemployment income something a landlord needs to consider? It's temporary. I believe yes. If they're getting income and they say, my husband is unemployed and he gets $300 a week, so we get $1,200. And the landlord says, I want people that make 3 times as much as the rent. And if the rent is $300, somebody that does that qualifies. If you're using income, it doesn't matter whether it's coming from unemployment, from government, from a company, if you're using a pension, if you're rich and your parents left you a mutual fund, a trust account that every month they deposit money, you can use that, your bank account, and say, hey, look, my parents left me $5 million and every month I get $500,000 or whatever, $500 or $5,000 a month. And here's my income. Hey, I have money in China and the government of China, I am a spy and I receive money from China that comes from Hong Kong and it goes to Singapore and then they deposit it back in Vietnam and then it comes to an American bank and you can trace that the money is legal coming to the United States. No problem. If it goes to Brazil, the Bahamas, Switzerland, it's up to you. Can my client do the pre-sale form in the city of El Monte before getting a buyer? Yes. You do need a buyer's signature. So once you open escrow is when you start that, okay? So I understand that the city wants the buyer to be aware of this form, okay? And in the event that the seller doesn't want to do the repairs, in the city of El Monte, the buyer can assume the repairs and they have to put some sort of money, some sort of bond, and do the repairs within a certain amount of time. The same thing in the city of Los Angeles. You can sign the 9A report that the property doesn't have a gate, and then the buyer signs that within 1 year they're going to do it. The city of LA never goes and inspect. They just want their money, okay? But in case they want to go and inspect and you haven't done it, they can come after you.
Thank
The
you.
other question is, do we include all the buyer's disclosures with the RPA when we submit the offer? The answer to that is yes. You submit all the buyer's disclosures. I would contend that you even send the buyers and sellers disclosure, a statewide buyers and sellers disclosure, and you submit it to the listing agent, and then you get the buyer to sign that paper. It's about 14 pages, and then you tell the buyer, read it, understand what you're getting into. When you buy real estate, this is kind of like your when you buy a car and they give you that book that you never read and you just put it in the glove compartment. Tell the buyers to read the statewide buyers and sellers advisory so they know about what it means when they're buying a property. And that way they can ask you questions and then you will have to answer. When I am representing a buyer who does not speak English, they have to hire a translator at the time of signing to translate the agreement for them. Do I have to verbally review the disclosures with the client in detail? If you notice, in 1 hour and a half, I almost went to about only 10 disclosures, right? So it's probably gonna take you about 2 to 3 hours. That's the reason why I hate to discount my commission, because you're gonna be, ask all these questions, and people they want to do it, cheaply, and they don't understand that we work very hard. So legally, this will answer your question. You don't have to have an interpreter, but it is the understanding that the client understand those forms when they're signing them. Okay. I know that if they were to sue you, they are going to go and say, I don't speak the language. They never explain them to me. Now, if you speak Swahili and the buyer speaks Swahili, you could say, we had a wonderful conversation. I explained him to you and you understood, you move your head, and there was your daughter was there, and your daughter speaks English because she goes to Harvard, she goes to UCLA, and you were asking your daughter and you were asking, all of that. That's how I would handle it, okay? And I'm pretty sure that our lawyer is gonna say, you were not translating, you were just explaining. They had to read it. Once they sign, they are saying that they're acknowledged receiving a copy, and they're acknowledging understanding the form. And not knowing English is not an excuse for them not to do that. I mean, I understand that the DMV have the exam in all the languages. I also understand that the Southern California Edison sends you a multilingual. I understand that when you go and vote, even though people in English don't even understand what the law is being in English, all that they translate them to languages. The translation, it doesn't translate correctly. All the propositions, yes mean no, no means yes. I still do not know what happened with the lady about the infusion of kidney, whatever kidney disease. I don't know if the old lady that was in the commercial died or didn't die. I don't know if the proposition passed or didn't pass. I didn't understand what it was. Okay, guys.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I do. I have a question.
Yes.
I always provide a paper copy to my clients when they're signing, even though it's not actually signed by them. Do I also have to do that for the MLS input sheet?
Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, and I don't want to say nothing bad about Arcadia. Arcadia office makes a lot of those. Oh, they just put on file, and that is wrong. The listing input form must be signed by the seller.
But I have to give him a copy of the entire
Yes.
document.
And what the way
Okay.
I do it, Camelia, is if I were to do a listing presentation and I print all the documentation because I'm an old-fashioned agent and my sellers are old-fashioned. So what I do is I print 2 sets of everything, right? 2 sets. And then when I go to their home and I say, would you please sign the contract, please? And they sign my agency and they sign my federal non-disclosure form and they sign the wire transfer and they sign the listing agreement and they sign the input form. Even when they sign the input form that is not completed because I have not finished completing the form, when I come to the office and I finish completing it, I will send them a copy, or I will email them a copy, or I send them by mail, or I deliver the copy of the MLS printout, right? So that way
Yes.
I cover my butt that they saw the final product.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I get one copy to be signed and I bring that copy with me and I leave one without signatures, right? And then when I come to my
Correct.
office, I will scan and send an email. And I said, thank you for listing with Coldwell Banker George Realty. I am going to do everything to get your property sold in the shortest time. I'm going to put it on the MLS. I'm going to do a flyer or whatever. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Kisses, kisses, kisses. Attached, please find a copy of the executed documents. Keep them in a safe place. And please keep my card and give it to your friends and family. You can do that, and you're subtly requesting referrals, right? That's how you do it. That's how you get more customers.
And then I tell them they could throw away the blank ones, right?
They can throw away the blank one. You're right. Any other questions?
Cesar, this is Clint. Sorry about just one question. Once you get the contract signed, you have to give them the disclosure within 5 days? All the disclosures within 5 days after sign the contract?
Well, technically, you try to get all the disclosures on your listing presentation. I understand that some agents have a 1-step listing presentation. Some people have a 2-step listing presentation, and some people go 3 times to the house, right? Sometimes they just go and take a look at the house and walk through. Then they say, I'm going to do a CMA and I'll come back, and they sign the listing on that second day, the agency, the listing, and then they come back the following day and they take pictures with a photographer and they do an AVID and they do all kinds of things and they wash the kitchen and they wash the dishes and they do kiss, kiss, kiss with the seller and hug him and whatever, bring him flowers, chocolate, whatever you do. I bring him alcohol. No, I'm just kidding. I drink a beer and with them, no. Some people will go and revisit the house and make flyers and come back again and say, oh, by the way, I'm here to pick up all the disclosures. I mean, you have 3 months, right? You have 3 months to take all the disclosure. Today's market, you put a property on the market today, tomorrow you are getting showings and offers. So my advice is that you better get all the disclosures, because once the buyer makes an offer, then you have only 3 to 5 days to give all of the disclosures, completed disclosure, to the buyer.
Yeah, you get 5 days to give it to the buyer, and buyer, how many days do they have to return it back to you?
Right, it's in the contract. It says the buyer has 7 days,
7 days.
to return them back.
Gotcha.
That's the default on the contract, but you can change it. You can say within 3 days, read, approve, and send them back to me.
Gotcha.
And
Thank
if
you
you
so
don't
much,
do it, I'm going with buyer number 2, right?
Thank you.
That's part of you being a good agent. Okay, guys, it's 11:30. I have to run to the lunch, the awards luncheon. I hope and I wish that you guys are award winners next year, so you get invited to the award. Hopefully it will be more open because of COVID. We had to do a smaller event, but nonetheless, it is great to have you. And we love to teach you. We want you to do more transactions. Listing is the name of the game. My telephone is right there on the screen. You feel free to do that. And if you have a questions, do not hesitate to reach out to Lori, reach out to Doug, reach out to one of the transaction coordinators. If they know the answer, they will give it to you. If the answer is big, I will give it to you. If it's bigger than me, I go to Peter. He is an attorney. We're very lucky to have the broker to be an attorney, so he understands all of this. One of the benefits of working for Coldwell Banker George Realty is that even though we are a big company, we can very fast turn around the answers from the owners. We don't have to wait like some other companies. Like I heard that EXP, they have 1,000 agents for one broker, and the broker is in San Diego. Okay, so my goodness, here you guys have access to the managers, access to the broker. You're welcome, Trisha. It's always nice to have you here. Clint and Kathy and Ting and whoever is iPhone and Camelia and Ali and Vey and Trisha and Julia. It's a pleasure. Feel free. Anybody from Alhambra, they know they can get me anytime. So just email me, text me, and I'll be delighted to help you guys out. Anybody from Arcadia as well. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you Monday for the sales meeting for Alhambra. I'll see you Thursday for the sales meeting in Arcadia. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank
see
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Well.